CNN's chief national security analyst Jim Sciutto, who's laughing at me right now, and CNN military analyst, retired Colonel Cedric Leighton. Jim, I want to start with you here because you've got new reporting on this, and it's complicated, right? Because the U.S. is involved right now in these active strikes against drug boats, what the administration says are drug boats in the water. At the same time, you've got reporting of the president being briefed on land action that could be connected to regime change. I mean, there's a lot going on here.
This is what Zach Cohen and Kevin Liptak and I are told, and that is that the president was briefed this week on multiple military options for Venezuela, up to and including strikes on land, and including not just striking drug targets, but also potentially military targets. I'm told that Southcom, Southern Command, has set up cells for developing these strike options, these strike packages, which have then been presented to the president, Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, and Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Now, the president hasn't decided to exercise these options, and our reporting is that the president hasn't decided how far he wants to go, and frankly has reservations about going to full-scale military action there. That said, they've at least developed the options for him, and given that range of options, it shows you at least what they're considering, right? And they certainly, with all these pieces in place there, including the biggest warship in the U.S. Navy, right, the Gerald Ford, they have the capability to carry out these options.
And again, we're showing these strikes against what the administration says are drug vessels, and this is connected but slightly different than what you're talking about here. And I'm going to talk about the military implications of this with Cedric in a second. But Jim, from a political and diplomatic perspective here, explain to me that subtle difference between when you're talking about strikes on military targets in Venezuela versus the video we keep showing of the boats here.
Well, to date, the administration has gone after what it says are drug smugglers here, these deadly strikes. Of course, there are those who question that they know this, including some of our closest allies. To date, that has been as far as they go. But there is discussion, at least consideration of going bigger, right, with possibly even the intention of trying to push Maduro out of power. Now, it's our understanding that Trump's hope, to some degree, is that this show of force might encourage others inside the country to abandon him, right, and in other words, do America's work for it, right, short of, no one's talking about a full-scale invasion. But, of course, it's not clear that that's going to happen, right? That might just be a hope and ambition. And at some point, the president might decide to apply more military pressure.
So, Colonel Leighton, to you, what's the difference from a military standpoint of continuing to hit these boats, which, again, the administration says are drug boats, and then striking on the ground at potential state targets inside Venezuela?
Yeah, that's a considerable difference and would represent, John, a very big escalation in this effort. So any type of campaign of this type requires a great deal of planning. And one of the things that I'm comparing it to is the operation back in 1989 against Panama, Operation Just Cause, as we called it. So in that particular scenario, it took almost 2 years to plan that operation and to actually take out the then leader of Panama, de facto leader of Panama, Manuel Noriega. And he was implicated in drug trafficking as well. So there are certain parallels here. But in that particular case, there were certain precipitating actions on the part of both the Panamanians and the U.S. that led to Operation Just Cause actually being executed. And when it was finally executed, we employed about 26,000 troops to actually make that happen. So when it comes to this particular operation against Venezuela, we see a major buildup, and certainly with the Gerald Ford, making its way toward Venezuela, it's a very big, use of force. About 100,000 tons actually is the weight of that ship. It's going to be a very big show of force, but it really won't be enough to go after that particular country to affect regime change. So it's kind of in line with what Jim and the other colleagues are reporting, and it is a very big effort that would need to be done to even go after the Venezuelan state, and it would definitely be an escalation if that were to happen.
Yeah. Jim?
Well, just a point on the legal factor here, because as you know, the Trump administration has come up with what it believes to be legal justification for these strikes on drug boats, narco-terrorists, et cetera. Our reporting is that the administration does not yet believe it has the legal justification for military action against the regime. Doesn't mean they won't get there,
right?
But that is yet another hurdle to get over before the president issues such an order.
The legal issues and questions here are so fascinating and in some ways uncharted territory here. And Cedric, just again to your point, the USS Gerald Ford, which is the country's biggest aircraft carrier in service right now, that's not a weapon you use against these drug boats, correct?
That's right. That's exactly right. I mean, it's like taking a sledgehammer to a gnat, and that's that's really the difference when you look at the laws of proportionality to look at the legal aspect of this, just as Jim was doing. The laws of proportionality in warfare really require you to use proportionate force. This is extra proportionate, to say the least, and it's going to really indicate, to me at least, it indicates that there is an effort to do something else besides going after the narco terrorists, that are out there, that are purportedly out there doing this. So they need a lot of intelligence justification, and they need to make the connection both internally to the planning process as well as for the public, that this is actually exactly what the mission is, that they're going after the narco traffickers, and that the Venezuelan state is directly connected to those people.
Colonel Cedric Layton, Jim Sciutto in person. Great to see you, as always.